It's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I have a new story for you today. And it comes out of the book right here, Uncle Arthur's Storytime, Children's True Adventures. These were written by Arthur S Maxwell. Well, nothing complicates a problem more than trying to cover it up and pretend it isn't there. False stories, also called lies, and silence can make a mistake worse than it was to begin with, as Emily discovered. Emily's sad mistake. There was one thing that Emily could never bring herself to do. She could not admit when she had done something wrong. Instead, she would make up a story to try to cover up her mistake. Of course, it never worked. Mother always found out. No matter how much Emily lied, Mother got the truth out of her. Emily always had to pay the penalty. That means that she would get in trouble. Although Emily had told dozens of stories and had been found out just as many times, she still kept on telling them with the same sad results. Now, when they say stories, they don't mean like if we're telling a fun story like now or when I make up a story for my grandchildren. They're talking about lies. One day, however, something happened that changed everything. It was Emily's birthday. When she opened her presents, what should she find but the dearest, prettiest little watch she had ever seen. She was just too happy for words. She had never dreamed to hope that her mother and dad would give her something so beautiful. Can you see how they're all smiling and happy? We don't wear watches as much now, but when I was a little girl, we did. And when I was an adult for a long time, that's how we could tell what time it was. Emily put the watch on her wrist and gazed at it by the hour. To think she had a real watch that kept proper time and not just cheap toy like she used to have. Oh, how the girls at school would envy her. Mom and Dad had told her to be careful with such an expensive gift. She was to wind it slowly and never to overwind it. That's how you got it going. You would twist that very carefully. I got to tell you, when I was little, I ruined some watches that way. I would twist them too hard. She was to take it off her wrist before she washed the dishes. And of course, she must take it off before she had a shower or bath, because watches did not used to be waterproof. And if water got in them, it would ruin them. If you take care of that little watch, Dad said, it will serve you for a long, long time. Oh, I'll take care of it, said Emily. I wouldn't let any harm come to it. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever owned. And there's Emily. Look how happy. She's just checking out that watch. One evening, about a month later, Emily was taking a bath. She had done her hair and washed herself all over when she suddenly noticed that her precious watch was still on her wrist. Emily panicked and leaped out of the tub. She took off the watch and held it to her ear. Oh no, it had stopped. Oh, she cried, my lovely watch, I've ruined it, I've ruined it. Then came the dreadful thought, what will Mom say and what will Dad say? She felt like she could not face them. Kind and loving as they were, she thought she simply could not tell them the terrible truth about what she had done. So what could she do? If she didn't wear the watch, they would wonder why. If she did wear it and noticed that it had stopped, they would ask questions. She decided to make up a story about it so they would never know the truth. A number of days passed. Emily kept the secret to herself. Then one morning at breakfast, Dad asked her the time. "What time is it?" "I'm not sure," she said, blushing a little. "I'm afraid my watch has stopped." "Stopped?" said Dad. "Did you forget to wind it last night?" "Oh, no," said Emily. "I wound it all right. But, well, it just stopped." Emily took it off her wrist when her dad said, "Let me see it." And she handed it to him. "It looks a little misty under the glass," he said. "I wonder what could have caused that." "I was wondering the same thing," said Emily. "Perhaps it got wet when I went out in the rain last night, but I didn't think the rain could get through the glass." "I wouldn't think so," said Dad. "Sorry, my nose is itching. I'll take another look at it when I get home this evening." When Dad had gone, Mom asked to see the watch. She too noticed the mistiness under the glass. "Very strange," she said. "I can see little drops of water in there too. Emily, are you sure you had this watch out in the rain?" "Oh, yes, Mother, yes. It was raining quite hard." "No, not last night," her mom said, getting a little suspicious. "It didn't rain last night at all." "Then it must have been the night before," said Emily, blushing deeper still. "Are you quite sure the water in this watch is from rainwater?" asked her mom. "Oh, yes, yes, it must be," said Emily. "Are you sure it's not bath water?" Mother said. No, I'm not quite sure," said Emily. Now she was really upset. "Tell the truth, Emily. Did you get into the tub with this watch on your wrist?" Emily saw that there was no use in trying to deceive her mom anymore. "Yes," she said, "I did." "Then why didn't you tell me that that you went out in the rain?" "Because I was afraid of what you and Dad would say to me." "When did you do this?" "Last week, Monday, I think." "Why, that's too long ago. Oh, if only you'd told me right away instead of lying about it all this time." "Why?" "Because if you had told me at once, I would have rushed the watch to the jeweler's. He could have dried it immediately and no harm would have been done. Now it must be all rusty inside and probably will never work again." "Never work again?" sobbed poor Emily. "Oh, if only I'd told the truth at once. Why did I ever lie about it? Now I've lost my beautiful watch forever." It was a hard lesson that Emily learned that day, but I'm glad to tell you that she did learn it. In the future, whenever she was tempted to cover up a mistake with a lie, Emily remembered what happened to her precious watch. She decided always to tell the truth right away. And that's what we should do. When I was growing up, my dad always told me that if I did something wrong, I might get in trouble. Maybe he would just talk to me. But if I ever lied about it, I would be in twice as much trouble. So you know what? I never lied to my dad. Now, sometimes I just was quiet and didn't say anything. That wasn't the best idea either. But to lie to my dad, I didn't do it. And my dad knew that any time I told him something, it would be true. That's a wonderful gift to give people. You can give it to your parents, your family, your friends, and let them know that they can always trust you. It's a good thing. Well, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I hope you liked this story. I think it had a very good message for all of us. I want to remind you that God loves you. He really does. I love you too. And I'll be back again tomorrow to read another story. Good night.